I'm so sick of this f***ing company. They're trash! Fix the game!
This clip of Tyler 1 ranting went viral all over the internet and is probably one of his most popular moments in his streaming career, not just because of how funny and crazy it is, but because of how relatable it was to the audience he was speaking to. Some people saw this clip, myself included, and thought that this was truly the most accurate representation of what it's like playing these sorts of games, showcasing just how brutal and unforgiving the nature of the game he's currently playing, and that type of game is, of course, a MOBA game. Playing a MOBA is kind of like jerking off multiple times. You know it's a bad idea, you can't stop yourself from doing it, and after you're done, you just feel like complete shit afterwards. The only difference is you're not being slowly degraded to feel like a subhuman piece of trash whilst honking your horn. Well, I mean, I guess you could be, depending on what you're into. Regardless, MOBAs have a very long and complicated history. Starting off as a small fry was Aeon of Strife, a custom mod made in StarCraft, later on blooming into the legendary game everybody knows as Dota All-Stars. This is also the sole reason why I don't trust people anymore. Hey, come on, help me kill this guy! Kill this guy! Come on, what are you doing? Dude, what are you doing? Okay, get back, it's too late now. Get back, what are you... Humanity was a fucking mistake. And after multiple years of Dota All-Stars taking its toll on the player base's mental health, the two big titans we all know and hate eventually came out: League of Legends and Dota 2. Two of the biggest names in regards to popularity and reliving past trauma. Both games each have their similarities and their differences, Dota 2 being more suited to those who relished in the complexity and macro-heavy style gameplay from its predecessor, and League more suited for, well, horny people. Riot Games knew that there was an audience out there interested in joining the MOBA sphere, but didn't feel like going to college for 5 years just to get a degree in creep blocking. So they went ahead and created their own version of the game, and kept a lot of the core mechanics and features that still keep it a MOBA game, but remove some of the things they thought were unnecessary. Things like creep denying, and couriers, and angry Russians. Both League and Dota thrived throughout the following years, each becoming not only some of the most popular games around the world, but also in the lead of the entire esports scene as well, gathering millions of viewers to watch their favorite teams duke it out all around the globe. But when comparing the statistics of spectator numbers to the current player bases of their games, there's a pretty drastic difference. I mean, don't get me wrong, both of these games are still very much considered popular to this very day, but I can't help but wonder why exactly they're both still not as popular as they once used to be. It's become pretty obvious that MOBA games are a lot more enjoyed from a viewer's perspective than to actually play the game yourself, but I want to know exactly why that seems to be the case. Like, what's stopping new players from wanting to try out these games? And more importantly, what's causing some players to ultimately quit these games entirely? Now, the first thing that comes to my mind, as I'm sure a lot of you guys were thinking of as well, is, of course, difficulty. Now, overall, I actually don't think that MOBAs are all too difficult. I mean, just pick a hero like Ogre Magi and but when I say difficulty, I mean, coming from a newcomer standpoint, you have to admit, it's extremely difficult for them to even just try to dip their feet in the water. Only this time, instead of it being like a kiddie-sized pool, it's a shark-infested ocean. 99% of your skill in a MOBA game is determined by one thing: knowledge. Knowing what your abilities do, knowing what the enemy's abilities do, where to go, what to build, how to feed, and this is what causes a lot of new players to quit just a couple of hours into the game. Speak to anybody who's still currently playing these games, and they'll tell you they've been playing for the past 5 to 10 years because that's just how long it usually takes to finally get settled in. There's just way too much dog information you need to know to be able to enjoy your very first game. Think to back when you first started playing your very first MOBA game. Perhaps you had a friend who was willing to teach you everything, or you just watched so many videos and guides, or maybe you were just there playing the game ever since it first came out. Regardless, just imagine being a brand new player who wants to learn a MOBA game for the first time ever nowadays. To put things into perspective, in League of Legends, there are over 168 different champions, each with around 4 abilities each, including a passive ability that makes it 5, resulting in around 840 different abilities you need to know about just so you can avoid feeding your ass off. And by the time you finally think you have what it takes, they've updated the game, nerfed your favorite champion to the ground, and released a brand new champion who can run through walls. What the fuck? That leads me to my next point as to why I think MOBAs are on the decline, because not only are new players not coming into the MOBA scene, but the current player base also doesn't plan on sticking around forever either. Now let's cut out all the bullshit here, okay? I'm just gonna say what everyone else is thinking. Yes, MOBAs have the worst game balance in video game history. There, you happy now? League does a terrible job at buffing and nerfing their champions. Every single 2 weeks just seems like a competition of who can pick that said broken champion the fastest. On the other side, Dota gets updated less frequently than my own update upload schedule, and that's really saying something. And when that update finally comes, it's the exact same thing. People just wait to see what heroes are being spammed by the top players in the next tournament, and oh, would you look at that, there's a sudden spike in Sand King mid lately. I wonder why. Surely because it's a fun mid hero, right? No, f you. People nowadays are so fixated on picking the meta heroes and building the meta item builds and following the meta strategies, but you can't blame them because at the end of the day, winning in a MOBA feels really, really good, whereas losing feels absolutely terrible.
Well, yeah, no shit.
And I know this might sound so incredibly obvious and needless to say, but I need to emphasize this point just to be clear. Winning feels good. You're having fun, everybody on your team is having fun, and everything just feels overall fantastic. But on the other hand, losing feels just so fucking shitty. It makes you reconsider whether or not you even want to keep playing the game. You're dead half of the time just waiting to respawn. Your teammates are arguing with each other non-stop, and you spend the remaining amount of time feeling trapped in your own base like it's a torture device just waiting for it all to end. Most other games are not like this. Battle royales, if you die or your team sucks, just leave the game and queue up for another one. Fighting games at tops is like 3 to 4 minutes each fight. You can either rematch the person or find someone else to fight. And most team-based FPS games at least have a surrender function to speeding up the self-deprecation process. And that's where most of the main problems stem from. It's the volatility of accepting that queue pop in a MOBA game. Sure, yeah, they could be extremely fun at times, but they also have a chance to be overwhelmingly miserable. Like, I'm talking some of the worst experiences a single gamer could even imagine. Something you could only experience in a MOBA game. All it takes is one bad game, one toxic message, one angry Ursa who breaks his items because his support didn't pull the lane, or one Yumi picker on, to be honest, either team. And that would ruin your entire day, leading to yet another fallen soldier who we probably won't see again for a few weeks, or months, or maybe even ever again. And it also doesn't help that because losing in a MOBA feels so mentally draining, most of the community has just degraded into these radioactive zombies, whose passion and love for the game has deteriorated, and mental fortitude has been abused and beaten down so hard it shares the same consistency as guacamole. Watching Grubby's video where he talks about why he's done with Dota for now and why it doesn't feel fun for him anymore really did speak to me on so many different levels, because it's the exact same thing I've been saying for years. The community is toxic and people don't even know how to have fun anymore. People always talk about how much better both League and Dota used to be back in the day and blame it on the development team for applying bad updates, which I just find complete and utter nonsense. You're telling me that you miss having one single courier to share between all your teammates trying to hog it? You miss having to buy runes and rune pages with your hard-earned in-game currency? You love the fact that when you queued up for a ranked game, you had absolutely no guarantee of playing the role you actually wanted to play. I mean, come on, guys, stop with the bullshit. All of these updates were actually good for the game. Talent trees, neutral items, elemental dragons, mythic I mean, okay, maybe not that one actually. Regardless, I think that it's baffling to see that some people out there actually think that these games were better back then. In my opinion, both of these games have evolved to become a much better version of what they used to be. But what has gotten worse is in fact actually just the community. Back in the day, we didn't have third-party websites that gave us all the information about all the statistics of what's good and what's bad. Everybody was still trying to learn what the f was even going on, and most people just picked what they wanted to play because the character looked cool. But as time went on, MOBA games have become a lot more fixed and competitive. People started to adapt and create a meta that now everybody is forced to follow. If you didn't play a specific hero or champion exactly the same way as everybody else did, you were deemed to be a troll or a noob. One of the most popular quotes in Dota 2's history is No Tail saying anything can work. But in reality, what he actually meant to say was, anything can work as long as a pro player does it first. Nowadays, the MOBA community has become so obsessed to grinding ranks and min-maxing the ever-living shit out of every single strategy they learn about, causing fatigue and tilt, and overall just doesn't make the game as fun anymore. And that's not really even anybody's fault per se. This is just what happens when things get overly competitive. Just take a look at every other game that slowly met the exact same fate. Fortnite was fun until people started professionally speedrunning their building. Overwatch was fun until people found unstoppable team compositions, and a day before was it was actually never fun at all to begin with. I think something we can all agree on is this: we missed what it was like playing a MOBA game for the first time ever. We missed back when we had a full party of friends to actually play with. We missed not knowing exactly how we ended up dying or how to play our own heroes, but we were slowly learning the game together. And no matter what happens next for MOBAs, I will always cherish these memories I had along the way, as they were honestly some of the best moments of my life. And if you watching this video have not played a MOBA in a really long time, or have not played a MOBA ever in your life, then I truly do advise that you stay as far away as possible. This shit sucks!